Ohio State and Maryland, another interesting one. Of course, Ohio State rolled Michigan State. Nice cover last week. First cover in a long time. Maryland lost a high-scoring game to Indiana, and I'm not exactly sure how huge of a favorite Ohio State should legitimately be here. They're around 14.5 points. I was thinking maybe a shot with Maryland team total under. We know that Maryland, the blueprint for beating Maryland this year is to put a strong physical defense in front of them, and that might be what they'll get from Ohio State. And of course, it's a little bit of a look-ahead spot for Ohio State, so not sure how motivated they'll be to run up the score here. So maybe I'm thinking under, maybe I'm thinking Maryland team total under. Joe Gavassi, what do you think? Ohio State, Maryland.
I think the off-field distractions from early in the season are beginning to take a toll on Ohio State, especially when they travel. Look at their road games. They got a win over TCU, no cover, against a Horned Frog team who's clearly on a downer this year. They also went into Penn State. They had to score twice in the fourth quarter to barely escape with a win there. Then there was that debacle at Purdue where they lost by 29 points. Simply not a good road team. Now, admittedly, as you said, the blueprint for beating Maryland is to put up a physical defense on them. Losses at Temple, loss at Michigan, Iowa, Michigan State. Maybe Ohio State's in that mold. They aren't anymore with a declining defense based on what it was scheduled to be the start of the year. Yet Maryland enters today with their off-season problems largely behind them. Looks like things have been cleared up for Maryland here. The people who were supposed to be gone are now gone. And they played actually a very good game at Indiana last week. I know they lost 34-32, but the reality is they outrushed Indiana 354 to 131, outgained them 543 to 374, but 4 critical turnovers contributed to that non-cover. Well, that's going to happen. You'll only beat the spread 12% of the time if you're minus 3 turnovers or worse. Maryland does qualify under my second article this week, 5-5 staying alive. It tells you exactly which 5-win teams to bet on. Check that out at Joe Gavazzi Sports as part of the Point Spread Prognosis newsletter. They're also a yards per play dog, having the better yards per play differential, and in the underdog role, solid 67% this year. And as well, a reality play from last year's outperformance versus Indiana on the field. Speaking of last week's performance, it was the Buckeyes who took advantage of 3 turnovers by Michigan State to get what looked like a lopsided win, but saw them gain only 315 yards. Finally, you alluded to this, Pete. Ohio State is sandwiched as a big road favorite between Michigan State and Michigan, further contributing to their complacency against the team they handled last year. When it's all said and done, we'll take Maryland here plus the 14.5 points.
All right, it did open at 16.5. Now it's down to 14 or 14.5. We'll give Joe Gavassi 14.5 minus 106. Another tough one again. This is one we assign him, not the one that he selected. I was thinking maybe about a shot with the under. Ian Cameron, what's your take on this one?
Maryland's the easiest team to handicap from a matchup standpoint. Can they run the football?
Right.
They can put up points, and if they can put up points, they can cover numbers. That's as simple as that with Maryland. Can they run the football? When they don't, they get buried. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Lose to Michigan State 24-3, shut out by Iowa 23-0, lose 42-21 to Michigan. What's the common thread in those 3 losses and point spread failures? They couldn't run the football in those games. Can they run it here? Well, Ohio State's got decent numbers on the season against the run, but you look at it lately for them. I mean, Minnesota lined up against them, ran the ball a little bit effectively in that game, allowed them to hang around, cover the number. Penn State ran the ball well against Ohio State. We know Purdue ran the ball very well against Ohio State in that upset win. I mean, Ohio State was shredded by DJ Knox and company on the ground. So I think this is an opportunity for that stable of running backs for Maryland potentially to have success running the football, and that's when Maryland suddenly becomes a little bit of a live football team here from a point spread perspective, because Kasim Hill has not done it at the passing game. They've needed to run the football to move on offense. Problem is the last 2 meetings, I mean, 62-3, 62-14. Has the gap closed that much between those two meetings and this? Because Maryland's catching only 14 here. They got to stick within 2 scores, and they haven't even been close to sticking within 2 scores of Ohio State these last couple of seasons. And for Ohio State, can they throw the football because they haven't been able to run it? Maryland's pass defense actually pretty good. 181 yards per game allowed through the air this season. That's not terrible. Yeah, I think Maryland, I'd lean that way. I just don't know if the value's there. So it's a lean to Maryland, but it's an official pass for me.
All right, so you think Maryland will be able to run the ball, so maybe you wouldn't be so keen on an under here, Ian.
It's tough.
It is a tough one.
I'm neutral. I'm neutral on the total. I think lean Maryland because I think they could be able to run the ball a bit.
Right.
But from a point spread perspective, we're talking about 62-3, 62-14. I mean, blown out by 38 plus points in both games. Now you're only catching 14. I would have liked more points.
All right, Ian Cameron very wisely passing on these 2 games. Joe Gavassi, he doesn't care. He's been doing this forever. He knows how to handicap a game and find an edge, even if it's small. Whatever we throw at him, and Joe Gavassi's going to take Maryland plus 14.5, minus 106. Again, this was a game that we asked him to cover.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.